Okay, good to go. Well, my name is Franco Vega. I'm an executive director of the Rightway Foundation. The reason how I know SAJE and Teresa is that I've been a partner of SAJE for about 5 years, as long as the Regal Theater has been open. When it was the old executive director, Gilda. And so we was a part of that local hiring, and I've always been a part of the local hiring for Staples Center and all the projects they got going on. So it's a great relationship with SAJE. I'm familiar with local hiring and labor agreements and stuff like that. You'll hear more about it in my presentation. But that's how I know Teresa. We sit on the coalition where we meet here monthly to provide jobs for my population, which is the foster care, and then other community members, people coming out of prison and other difficult backgrounds. Once again, my name is Franco Vega, and I am the executive director. Every time I do a public speaking, I like to tell you guys about myself, because the worst thing for you to do is hear me talk for a couple of minutes, but then really not know who's talking, who's up front. So my journey begins 40 years ago. I'm the son of Vilma and Marl Vega. I'm the third, I'm the baby. And I have an older sister and an older brother. And my dad, Marl Vega, was a great man, but he suffered from a terrible disease, alcohol. He was a drunk, mixed with drugs too. I was just too young to know what kind of drugs he did, and he died when I was 10. He was a womanizer, didn't beat my mom, but he had a great personality, and I have great memories of him because I was the baby and I was his little one, and I remember him taking me to baseball games and stuff like that. I always wanted to be like my dad. I really couldn't see the alcoholic in him because he was the best drink. He was a friendly drunk, a happy drunk. The only thing was that he would blow the money, wreck the cars, disappear, go to jail for DUIs and stuff like that. So when he came home to my mom, she was frustrated, as you can imagine. She's raising 3 kids by herself, and her husband's turned out to be a drunk, and I believe he was a cheater too. And so she would get violent on him and beat him up when he was drunk, and I can remember that, him busting over the head with a bat. He never hit my mom, which was a good thing, because it's always learned behavior. I never hit girls in my life either. I did have an alcohol and drug problem too growing up, and I'll talk about that a little bit. But my mom used to beat him up, and then it got to a point where he would hold her down and laugh it off. He was so drunk. And real men would admit that, when a woman slaps you, it's a slap. It's not like a punch from another man. So I'm glad that he didn't hit her back. So he would laugh at her and hold her down when he was drunk. So she figured out that way, I can't hurt him back, so let me start beating on his kids. And the beatings started badly. I always tell the joke that, for my religious folks, Jesus got it at 33, well, I got it at 5 to 15. I used to get the beatings with the buckle and the skin would rip off of me. I remember calling the LAPD on her, and she convinced them that I was the bad kid. And back in the 70s, it wasn't really, the foster care system wasn't that big, so LAPD had a group meeting and said, well, you're a bad kid, Frankie. They called me Frankie for Franco. Even though I did have ninja stars all the time when I called the cops, that was a dumb lesson. But they checked me and saw me had ninja stars, so they figured, yeah, he is a bad kid. So the beatings kept coming and coming. At the age of 10, my dad drunk himself to death. At my age of 10, he drunk himself to death. He was supposed to go to surgery November 19th. Halloween, he gets severely drunk. November 1st, he dies. So now my mother's stuck with 3 growing kids that she has to raise on her own. And the beatings kept coming. So when my sister was about 16 at this time, and she was the favorite. Any Latino, true Latino family, for men, the girl is your pride and joy. You protect that one. So he loved her like no other. So guess who took the worst of the beatings? She took the worst of the beatings because it was a way for my mom, sickly, to punish my dad by beating his best. So she would come home, miss curfew, after he died, and my mom would be like, well, where were you at, Yoli? And she wouldn't say nothing. She was just really going through the death of my father. So my mom would start punching her and bust her nose in her face, and she'll sit in the seat, just like this one, and just take the hits. And I always joke around and say, now I know where Dick Cheney got his interrogation from, because it was my mom. She would beat my sister. And there'd be blood coming out her nose along with mucus and mucus. And my older brother would be yelling at my sister, just tell her where you was at. And my sister just took it. So my sister eventually got pregnant and got kicked out of the house. So that was her way to leave the house and get away from the abuse. Then my brother, he was my second, he was oldest. He went into high school and he was a great athlete. So he went into varsity football right away and just started playing sports. So he didn't have no time to be a bigger brother for me. So little Frankie at 12 years old decides to hit the streets and join the gang. Not only did I join the gang, I probably joined one of the biggest gangs in the world. We're international now. I don't like to say what gang it is, but my favorite number is 18, so you figure it out. And so I started gang banging at 12. I got shot in the leg at 13, stabbed in the finger at 14, stabbed in the head at 15. I did what gangbangers do. Wasn't successful at it because I got caught several times and ended up in juvenile hall, Los Padrinos. While I'm in LP violating probation, my mom dies of cancer, and it was a blessing in disguise because through her death, I was born again, literally, and I was adopted by my African-American parents' best friends. So you can see I sound African-American because I was raised by a black family, but I'm 100% from Latino from Honduras. So I always tell the joke I went from horchata to Kool-Aid overnight. And it was a great culture shock. But my adopted foster grandmother used to say, Frankie, you was a loser gangbanger when your parents were around. They could still watch you now. Do you want to do something better with yourself? That always stuck in my mind, okay? And so at 15, I got shipped off from Cudahy to mid-city LA. And I got kicked out of Uni, Bell, Dorsey, Westchester, Palisades High School. And I was still on probation, so I graduated from probation school at 18 years old. Me and LAUSD had a joint agreement that I wasn't a good fit for them, and they wasn't a good fit to teach me. And so I graduated from a probation school and joined the Army. That was really my life story as a kid. But I can remember after I left the Army, I started drinking a lot and doing a lot of drugs, Just started doing it because I would have those dreams about my mom would tell me growing up she hated me, she wished I was dead, she wished I was never born, stuff like that she would tell a kid. And my girlfriend is close to my brother, and she always asks us, well, why do Frankie don't feel the same way about your mom the way he does? He still has great memories of my mother because I was smaller. The beatings I couldn't understand. He understands. He said, yeah, we were bad kids, so he understands the beatings. I couldn't understand them. I couldn't understand going to school in first grade wearing a bomber jacket in 90-degree weather covering beat marks, So it's a different story that me and him have. So, I took the GI Bill, got out the Army, I served in the 101st Airborne Division, did all the fun things military people do, took my GI Bill, went to Cal State Dominguez Hills after, and started working right away in the foster care system with a program called Rites of Passage. And if you're familiar with the term, rites of passage comes from Africa, from when a boy to a man. Our belief is that just because you're born with a penis don't make you going to become a man. You have professional teenagers. I have those buddies who still go to clubs at 39 and 40 years old, living at home. We call those professional teenagers. I have young ladies who get their women now, they're fully developed, but they're not doing women things. So we put them in professional teenager category. So I started working with Rites of Passage with DCFS. About 18 years ago. I left that program after 3 years and went on to create another program in the city of LA called Yo Watts and Yo World Heights, the Opportunity Movement. And I created job readiness training for them. After that, working with gangs and stuff, I went to Skid Row and created an employment center at the Midnight Mission. And this is when the real story begins, because when I was at the Midnight Mission, I created an employment center. They would have to come through my doors after they go through recovery, the 12-step program. And after they successfully complete the 12-step program, we deem them job ready and they got to come see us. And then I would ask them a question, and it was for no rhyme or reason. I would say, how many of you guys been through the foster care system? 90% of the guys that came to my door at 30, 40, and 50 years old all went through the foster care system. I don't know why I asked that question. And now I'm starting to see why I asked that question. And so I just put that in my backpack and took it. And then about 3.5 years ago, someone from this coalition, SAJE, a person named Rochelle Alley, who works for the Children's Bureau, or who used to work for the Children's Bureau, asked me, Franco, would you want to create your own foundational employment center inside Magnolia Place, right down the street, off of Washington and Magnolia? I said yes. That's when we created the Rightway Foundation. After we created the Rightway Foundation, I was doing a recruitment for Airmark. We do all the hiring for Airmark's USC gate engine exclusively through the Rightway Foundation. So I put on my Facebook, I need 150 people. I reached out to SAJE and we all came together, but we still needed more. So I put it on my Facebook, and then one of my partners from my past said, Franco, why don't you give these jobs to foster care youth or look out for foster care youth? So I went to my board, it was a great idea, and then we looked at the numbers, and I'm gonna talk about the numbers. And we looked at the failure rate, and we said yes, without a doubt. So then we changed Rightway Foundation into a program underneath called Operation Emancipation. And that's our program. Operation Emancipation is an 8-week program that ties in mental health services and job readiness training at the same time. It's a unique program that we created that's not being used nowhere in the United States, where you force the kids to go to therapy at the same time when you teach them how to keep a job. Now let me talk about the foster care system in LA County, so that's what we're here to really talk about. There's 28,000 kids in the system right now today. We have the largest number of youth in the foster care systems in the nation. 4% of foster care kids graduate from high school. 70% of 70% of people who go through the prison system come from the foster care system. My girls are 50% higher to get pregnant before the age of 19 coming from the foster care system. So we looked at those numbers and we're like, oh my God, this is a tragedy. So we created Operation Emancipation, and we put together a curriculum right away, and we had TJ Maxx fund our program, and TJ Maxx said, okay, well, we're gonna give you $5,000. We wanna be a part of your driver training component. So we brought them in, and one girl didn't pass the interview. They gave her clothes, they loved her, but she just didn't get the job. She started crying like death, you know? Like it went back to like when my mom used to beat me, she was crying that bad. And so a therapist walked by, and I was like, you're a therapist, do your work, you know? I panicked, you know? And so he pulled her into another room inside of our building, and he talked to her for 15 minutes, and then he asked her for permission and said, can I share your story with Franco and the TJ Maxx corporate reps? And she said yes. So he came out and told us that when she goes back home to her foster mom, she's gonna be called all the B words, you're a useless B, no good N word, and just get ridiculed, verbally abused. And that's why she started crying. So then it hit me right away that a job is just not the answer for this population. This population has been treated less than human, like animals. So that's why we put in our therapist component, you know. We was in a group last week, and we run this 8 weeks, and we run it every quarter, and we reach 25 youth every quarter, 100 annually. And we had a powwow last week, and we asked the kids, the youth, I always call them kids, but they're young adults. They're 18 and over. A lot of them can buy liquor right now. A lot of them are in their own apartment, transitional housing. And we asked them, why do you guys come to this program? Because we don't pay them. It's for free. It's not court ordered. Sometimes it's court ordered, but the majority is just coming on their own. And one guy came up, Rudy came up with a great answer that just blew me away. He said, this class makes me feel normal. And it really gave us, it gives me the chills just talking about right now. You know, these kids has been treated less than human. I got girls in my program that's lost her virginity at 4 to her father. Her mother took the father's side. The girl goes into kinship care. Kinship care is when you stay with your aunt or another extended family. Went into the aunt family. The cousins, who were like 7, 8 years old, continued to molest her. So then the courts came involved, law got involved in that. So now she's claiming twice she's been sexually molested, and no one believed her. Put her into a group home, and then her foster parent's son started to rape her. So now she's 19, and she's on our doorstep. And they say, get her a job. And she has to deal with the issue of the raping and sexual molestation. People always, I'm gonna say this one. We have the largest percentage of homelessness in LA County on scale, without a doubt, it's undeniable. We have the largest percentage of foster care in the nation in LA County, but no one's putting 2 and 2 together. No one's putting 2 and 2 together. You know, we have a problem with drug addiction, alcohol abuse, and stuff like that. Well, what do you expect my kids to do when they get older? Look at me. You know, I look normal to everyone, but trust me, doing them lines of cocaine and drinking a lot numbed me from what my mom said to me. It used to numb me. It took away my pain temporarily. I was so sick that when good things happened to me, I would party with an 8-ball of cocaine. That was the way to party. I didn't know I wasn't a normal kid where I knew how to party or when you do something successfully, how to celebrate that in a positive manner. What do you expect my foster kids to do? You know, when something good happened to them, they go out and go buy some marijuana, and all of my kids have marijuana cards. You know, that's just going around. So I can't wait for us to change the law. Next thing I really want to talk about is this word called empathy. You know, I hate the word. I love the definition, but I hate the word because some people don't even understand that word. But we have to care more. You know, and why not just say care for these people or these kids instead of just saying empathy? And this is a good story, and Teresa knows about it. One of my youth was hired recently through LA Live Staples Center. And so when you get hired for LA Life Staples Center, you got to go through a drug test and a background test. Okay, we're cool with that. We're okay with that. So this guy, we know he doesn't use drugs. He came clean on marijuana, came clean on some other drugs, but then the last test was inconclusive. And it was, the guy said it was like the crystal meth drug. And I knew for a fact my guy doesn't use crystal meth. Because if you use crystal meth, you're gonna come up hot on marijuana too. They go together, okay? It's like fries and ketchup, it goes together. And so I call Teresa, and get Teresa involved, and I call the drug lab company and say, well, you know, hey, my guy didn't pass his drug test. And they said, no, that's not true. It was inconclusive, that we have to send it off to a new lab. But AEG called him and said, you can't work here no more. You can't work here. We're rescinding the invitation, and so no, you got to wait to apply again. And I'm like, well, why? And he said, because he left the drug company. He left the drug lab. And I called my guy and said, well, you left the drug lab? And he's like, yeah, they told me to leave. So I called the drug company back and said, did you tell my guy to leave? And they said, yes, we told him to go home. So I called AEG back, and at this time I'm cursing. I'm like, this is bullshit. You're not going to treat my kids this way. He was told to leave. He followed instructions. So AEG called the company, and they did agree that, yes, they told him to leave. The results came back drug-free. They hired him. But then we have a PhD person who writing her dissertation on our program. And we was telling her the story, and it clicked to her. She was like, Franco, I finally get it now. We're just doing things for these kids that you would do for your kid. If someone treated your daughter or son wrong, teacher gave him a bad grade, you're going to go fight for him, right? Well, wait, he did this assignment. I helped him, I proofread it, so I know it should be an A. So that's what we're doing for these kids, fighting for these kids, because no one has ever fought for them. It's big business. The county gets group home gets about $6,000 per youth per kid in a group home. Oh, so yeah, it's big business. It used to be bigger. It's about a $1.6 billion budget annually for LA County for just DCFS, Department of Children and Family Services kids. So you think with all that money, we should produce better results. But it's pocketing certain people. It's a business for certain people, you know. And we have the stories when girls get out of the foster care system at 18 and the check stops, and their foster parent kicks them out. In 17 years raising this kid. You have a kid for 17 years. Wouldn't you think you'll find some kind of attachment with this kid? You know? And we're on Facebook. Everyone's on Facebook. I find more love for animals on Facebook than I have for the kids. And you know, I don't mind my animal rights people, Peter. I'm cool with you guys. But a German Shepherd's not going to cure cancer. A Chihuahua's not going to report to a 911 building on fire, you know. But in some sick way, we care more about animals than we care about our kids. And so that's the destruction of our foster care system. You know, they always ask me, and funders come to me and say, well, Franco, what's your logic model? And what evidence-based are you practicing? I know I have a therapist in the audience. And we use common sense. We go back to the old school way. And when I say old school, I'm talking about the 60s and 50s. I'm not talking about the late 60s and 70s and 80s where the generation was just really messed up. I'm talking about the old school World War II attitude where the community raised a kid. If a kid does bad, by the time he gets home, the parent already knew he did something wrong. You know, us old school people have to teach these new school, old school values. And that's what we're doing. That's our model. That's our logic model. We meet the kid wherever they're at, you know. I have now a therapist on staff, and when we hired a therapist, we told the therapist, you're 24/7. If a kid calls you at 2 a.m. and something goes wrong, you're gonna answer your phone. Why? Because my 19-year-old daughter, if something goes wrong at 2 a.m., I'm there for her. We have to be there for them, and that's our model. You know, we do have to put together a logic model and use some kind of evidence-based, but really it's just common sense and being there for that youth. That's our blueprint. There's no hidden secrets, not a genius. It's just what works, you know. And we've been successful. After our pilot year, we serviced 68 youth. We successfully placed over 70% of them. 2 of them are in prison, and that's good to the regular numbers compared to the regular DCFS, you know. The statistic shows that if we don't get our act together, they will all be going to prison or prostituting themselves. Oh, I forgot to bring this one up. 85% of the girls walking the streets in LA right now come from DCFS or prostituting themselves. Sex trafficking is big right now, and we're trying to get a hold of that one too. And I can't share this one. Teresa knows some sad stories about our youth with that one, but I'm just going to read you guys some fact sheets and then answer all your questions if you guys have any questions. 28,000 once again are in the LA County system. 38% of California foster youth are in LA County. Teen girls, 2.5 times more likely to become pregnant by the age of 19. 50% of 21-year-old men aging out of foster care have reported that they got someone pregnant, compared to 19% of just normal kids who are not in the system, guys in the system. 3/4 young women in foster care report being pregnant before the age of 21. Compared to 1/3 of the general population. Here goes the education. This is where it gets really depressing. 75% are reading below grade level by 3rd grade. 80% of foster kids have to repeat a grade. 80%. By 11th grade, only 1 in 5 foster youth are proficient in English, and then it's only 1 in 20 in math by 11th grade of our foster care system. 2.6 are graduating from a university coming out of the foster care system. Only 2.6% go to college. So when we have one go to a university, it's like, wow, we are celebrating, and so it's a tragedy, and I call them ghosts. Our foster kids are ghosts because if you know ghosts, you know they're there, but you don't want to look at them. You're just like, I know that ghost is over there. I'm home alone. I don't want to look at them, and that's what it is. They don't want to deal with it. I don't blame it on politicians. I blame it on everyone. I share the blame for everyone because I've been fighting against DCFS for 18 years, and that hasn't gotten me nowhere. So why keep throwing rocks at them? So now we've got to work with them. You'll never see the Rightway Foundation honor a politician because they're not doing anything to, during Foster Care Month is May. Foster Care Awareness Month is in May. So you'll see all the sad stories in May, but remember, you heard it here first. But you'll see some politicians go in front of the camera. But they're not giving out new money for foster care youth. They're cutting back programs, They're cutting back services at a time when we shouldn't be. We should put in a little bit more. And especially with and I know you guys know it because you guys are involved with SAJE, our governor wants to put $700 million into a new prison. We already know where he's going to get the beds. We know they're coming from the foster care system. We know that for a fact, but they don't want to say that, And I believe that, this is my political speech, foster kids, it can't sway an outcome of an election. It's like, it doesn't, it's only 30,000 in our system right now. So when they get older, they're not voting, they're probably spread it out, they probably collected some felonies where they can't vote. So it's not a sexy item for politicians. It's not, and so it's just a sad situation. But with the Rightway Foundation, we're going to fight the good fight along with SAJE and everyone else in South LA. And hopefully we can make a difference, in 5 or 10 years, we'll be at a different place. I'm here for any questions now. Go ahead.